Greetings YouTube, Skill Incarnate bringing you all the latest indie gaming goodness. What do you get when you cross a deck building game with turn-based strategy and throw in a little bit of cosmic horror? Well, you get Against the Moon by Code Heretic. Against the Moon is a game that places you as the Ultori, a superhuman set of soldiers that is the last defense of mankind against their deadliest foe, the Moon itself, which is being corrupted by a mysterious dark force and threatens to consume the planet and mankind along with it. Now, you may know that I like my turn-based strategy, but I don't play a lot of deck building games. But after playing this, I'm inclined to go and seek some more out. I really did enjoy this game, and I think the work of HP Lovecraft really does make the game just that bit more appealing for fans of horror, but it's the artwork and the clever playstyle and use of cards which really got me sucked in. This is definitely a little different from the games I usually play, but we're going to have a look at the first part of the campaign, and as always, I'll let you know what I think. Let's have a look at Against the Moon.
Arx, the last stronghold of humanity on Earth. The planet is now fully under the control of the Furos, a vicious species designed by humans centuries past, but now guided by the corrupt Moon. The ancient city's infrastructure and defenses are badly degraded and require a constant supply of Luma, that enigmatic energy source upon which so much relies. With the human population in steady decline, faces everywhere are downcast and grim. Hope is fading. Galdir, one of Ark's most famous Ultori, sensed an unusual warp in the universal Luma flow. He was busy training a squadron of new recruits for the city guard. Recent data predicted more than 25% of them will die during their first year of service, either from the unrelenting moonstorms or during city maintenance operations. Despite these foreboding numbers, every student was quietly content to be training with the legend. Galdir was careful to conceal his unease about the Luma field from the youngsters. His task is to inspire. Whatever the trouble, the Ultori would deal with it. Ark City herself, the living mother goddess of humanity, first picked up the signal from Sophia, the Theurgo Ultori. The signal's origin was far from the city walls in an area plagued with intense Furos activity. For Arx, the picture was clear. It was Arx who sent her on this secret mission, and she alone knew the consequences should Sophia not survive. Arx communicated a short message to Galdir. No other Ultori was included on the transmission.
My child, gather your courage. I need you to collect my sarcophagus for an urgent mission. You must leave the city immediately. Tell no one.
Let your wisdom guide me, Mother, and I will be the weapon in your hands.
Ark's consciousness, sheathed in an ancient device known as the sarcophagus, followed Galdir out of the city. Together they headed into Furos territory. Galdir scanned their surroundings constantly, ready to counter any threat. The only place he never allowed his eyes to stray was the bleak, gray disk of the corrupted Moon above.
And for the first level in the game, we've got a rather easy opening battle. This game reminds me of a mix between tower defense and chess. It also has a little bit of League of Legends and Dota thrown in with the inclusion of lanes. And this took me a little while to get used to. There's 3 lanes with additional ones later in the game. You have to be careful of making sure that each lane is defended. Undefended lanes will result in damage to your leader. In our case, Arx. She's the AI controlling the city, and the destruction of Arx means the end of our game. So we have Galdir, our main hero, and we will unlock additional ones as we complete the campaign. We're up against the Furos, and they are a twisted mix of animal and machine. They once served humanity, and they've been corrupted by the Moon, which is turning them into their slaves. Now, the main part of the game, and a big thing you have to get used to, is the placement and the careful use of units. These guys are your basic attack units. They have two metrics. One is their attack power, how much damage they will do in each turn, and the other is their health. So these guys do a little bit of damage, but they're quite weak. So having either a high damage or a high defense will work. In our case, we can't do a lot of damage. Goldir won't be able to take a full amount of attacks from all four of them at once, so we need to soften the blow by placing one of our pawn creatures in the path to soak up some of the damage. So we also have a pool of mana, or luma, in the game. We generate some mana in each turn, or luma in each turn, and we use this luma to either 1. Summon creatures, or 2. Use spells and direct attacks. So there's not much we can do here. We are going to lose this character, but that will soften the blow against Goldir and allow him to survive the turn. The other good thing is, due to the high damage of this creature, he was able to kill all of the enemies as well. The Furos will swarm us, so we've got 2 undefended lanes. We need to worry about those. Now, the numbers on each side represent how much damage we will do to them. So with this lane being empty, we'll do damage to the enemy creature, or the enemy leader, and this numbers on the left shows how much damage they're going to do to us. Now, this won't kill us, but it's going to do a lot of damage, so we need to make a decision on how we're going to mitigate the damage. We have a choice of either summoning creatures or using a special power. So we've got minions and we've got magicka. So magicka attacks can take many forms. In this case, it's a direct attack. 2 damage to the target minion. As you can see, he does a lot of damage and he has a low health bar, so it's a natural choice to take him out first. We've mitigated the damage on the bottom lane. Now we just need to drop a minion on the top lane to 1. Soak up the damage, and 2. Finish this guy off. Nice. So we've cleared the field, and now if we're clever, we can end this battle very quickly. We need to focus on the leader. They've unwisely left the lane completely open, so of course we're going to take advantage of that. We're going to drop a minion in the center lane. He's going to do 3 damage. Goldir is going to do another 2. And to do that final bit of damage, we're going to use a direct attack on this minion here to negate the damage he's going to do in the top lane. We're going to do exactly 7 damage, which will win us the battle. It's all a numbers game. It's about working out how much damage you're willing to take and how much damage you're willing to dish out. And you will have to switch between offense and defense throughout the game. We've won the first battle. It's a nice easy one to get us used to the patterns and the gameplay. Things will only get harder from here on out.
Agreed.
Goldir's powerful forearms bulge as he kneels before his massive gauntlet, Earth Splitter, like a man worshipping at an altar. The Santitas Ultore are famous for their unbreakable discipline and martial prowess. This ritual is learned only by the greatest among them.
No Thuros may stand against me now. This power is almost limitless. But Arx, I sensed a rift during the ritual. Something powerful is stalking us.
Whatever it may be, there is no time. We must move at once if we are to save Sophia.
Okay, so following the first battle, Goldir managed to find a rather large source of power, and we now have access to a special ability that he can use through his weapon, Earth Splitter. And we're going to be using that in this battle. Again, the game is all about positioning, and now I've explained the basics. It's just basically, it's up to us to win these battles as quickly and decisively as possible. First part is protecting our lanes, making sure that there's mitigated damage to our main character. The next thing we want to do is add a echo unit. These units will do damage to enemies on the opposite side. So placing him in this lane will kill one of the enemy units. These guys are pretty weak, they've only got 1 HP. They do a lot of damage, they're glass cannons. So we're going to lose a unit here, unfortunately. But we took out 2 of theirs. Nice. Now these guys they're not too dangerous by themselves, they don't do a lot of damage. But they do have a very high HP bar. And they do have a really nasty special ability that we're about to find out about. So I'm not going to concentrate on fighting these guys, they're very strong, they've got a very high health bar. I'm going to concentrate on the guys that can do damage. This guy does a lot of damage, so he needs to go. And I'm going to place 1 unit here just to soak up the damage. So we're not going to take any damage in this round, but we're going to dish some out. The enemy has a much higher health bar than us as well, so we're going to have to do a lot more damage to them than they're going to have to do to us. Okay, so we've got a second enemy on the field. We again need to block the damage. We'll place another unit on the bottom lane. These guys luckily don't do a whole lot of damage, so we can soak up a fair bit of pain. Next we can pop an echo down in the other lane. We'll place him at the back, just for a little bit of bonus damage, and in our turn. Now we're nearly at full charge for Goldir. He has a special ability, and unfortunately the moon has used its special ability, which is to supercharge the enemy forces. These guys will now do a ton of damage. But we have our own ultimate attack, which we can charge by using this rune of energy, which will stun all of the enemy creatures and make them unable to attack. It also means that our attacks do lots of damage to them. So now that we've hit them with a fairly nasty attack, I'm going to drop an additional creature in here, so we can take advantage of their weakened state and do as much. Dish out as much pain as we can. There we go. So we end the turn. Boom. Now unfortunately, the enemy's still quite strong. We do need to destroy the leader unit. And the best way to do that is to kill the weaker units as swiftly as possible with a swift magical attack to the head. And focus on the undefended lanes for maximum damage. So we're going to do a massive 10 damage, and we'll only take 1 damage. Boom. So it's all a numbers game. It's about watching the lanes, and it's also about knowing the attack abilities of your different creatures. He's nearly dead, so we can soak up the damage on the top and bottom lane. We're going to place 1 more creature in the center. And what the hell, we'll also dish out a little bit of damage on that creature there. And this should win us the battle. The center lane attack, right up the middle, bam. Second battle won. So now we've got a bit of an idea of how the game works. We're going to get some additional heroes next and work out how to use the different abilities, how the heroes can be used in combination together. So, by winning the previous battle, we unlocked an Arcana Cell, and that gives us an upgrade to one of our cards. In this case, it's actually a new card that we've gotten. We had to pick one of these creatures. They all have their own special abilities, their own useful applications on the battlefield. but it really depends on whether you choose a defensive style, an offensive style, or whether you rely on special attacks. I tend to go for a defensive sort of approach, and I think this one here, the secret, Maxwell's secret, is going to be the unit we choose. The other two are the aggressor, which will stun an enemy when it's introduced to the field. It's not too bad, but I find that the stun is situational, and more often than not, it really doesn't do that much because you're often outnumbered. Stunning one enemy doesn't really do a hell of a lot. This is handy because it generates one Luma per turn, but I think I'm going to go for shields. I find that shields is the most useful ability. We'll definitely have a chance to use our new unit in the next battle. I hate caterpillars, but I especially hate predatory levitating mutant caterpillars. So, the next thing is learning how shields work. We have defensive drones, and they will generate a shield when they're created, and this will mitigate some of the damage. These guys are incredibly useful, and combining them along with units that use high offensive damage can win you the battle. These combine really well with either the echoes or the unstable mesh, because they prevent them from being killed and allow them to get attacks in. So we're into the battle now. We've got 4 left. What do we drop? We have 2 more shield units, and I think that might be a good idea to drop the shield units in. These guys are quite weak though. The only problem is if I do that, we are going to take damage, so our best bet in the first round is to hopefully mitigate some of the damage we're going to take. There we go. So by shielding the top and middle lane and destroying the enemy on the lower lane with a magic attack, we won't take any damage this round. Not only that, we were able to do some damage to them, and the shields prevented them from killing any of our units. Unfortunately, a moonstorm has come, and that means all of the enemies will get bonus attack and defense. We need to wrap this up pretty quick. These guys are quite weak without shields. So the next decision is, what do we do in terms of... And these guys are quite weak here. We're going to take some damage on the bottom lane, but I'm willing to soak that up. Let's try a new unit, Maxwell's Secret. This will generate a shield. And we can now drop an Echo unit, which will kill one of theirs. Nice, so we are going to lose a couple of units here. There's not much we can do, but the damage on our end is going to be quite small. We lost our shield units, unfortunately, but they did buy us some time. Unfortunately, the enemies used their Moonstorm attack to make everything on the field tougher and harder to kill, and also harder to use special abilities on. So our best bet now is to just go for direct damage. We can't win in a fair fight here. If we decimate the middle field like so, and then drop an unstable mesh unit, it means we're going to take damage on the top and bottom field, but we're also going to do massive damage to them. Not good. So unfortunately, they're channeling life force into the leader. Every bit of damage they do to us, they're getting it back. So we now need to swap between offense to defense. Doing damage to them is pointless. So we have to switch to a defensive strategy. We'll see. I don't know how well this is going to work, but hopefully it'll buy us some time to see what other strategies we can use. So that was a good move. Swapping to defensive has 1 given us the time we needed to charge up our special skill, and 2 has given us Amara, our second Alturi member. As you can see, she just wiped out half the squad in one go, half the enemy squad. Very, very powerful, and if used right, she can decimate enemy squads in addition to Goldir. So she's we can use either. I'm going to use Amara's special ability because she gets a 3 attack skill, and that should hopefully give us the advantage we need. She's going to do very high damage in the top lane. And the enemy only has weakened units. The top lane's clear, so our best approach is to attack in the top lane. Bang. Attack in the top lane and defend in the bottom. There we go. Boom. And with that we won the second battle. And the thing to remember there is I do play a defensive style, but you often have to swap between offense and defense depending on how the battle's going. If you're losing and you don't have any recourse, it's often better to rely on shields and defensive units just to mitigate the damage long enough for you to come up with another plan. So we've won that battle, it's on to the next one, and hopefully another member of the Alturi to help us out. Following the last battle, we got our hands on a very rare artifact called the Metacube. This can be used to upgrade one of our cards, and it gives them some very useful abilities. In our case, I want to see what we can do to our shield units. These guys are the most commonly used units in the game, at least for me. The defense drones are what allow me to take a defensive approach. Now, you do have some choices in upgrading your units, and depending on your playstyle, you're going to pick something different to complement the way you play the game. We have the ability to summon a defense drone that has a very strong shield when he's first summoned. We have one that can generate 2 shields, and then we have one that has a simple shield that regenerates with each turn. Now, this is the most versatile of the 3, and it really suits my playstyle, having a constant way to defend the lane as long as this unit remains alive. So the tactical drone is my unit of choice. This is going to be something we're going to use quite a lot in the next battle.
Amara danced about the last staggering Furos, masterfully piercing him with the rapier more than a dozen times before the final blow sent him to the ground with a reverberating crash. Despite the fevered melee, the so-called Queen of Arcs remained fresh and composed, her beauty untroubled, while the heavily breathing Goldir was plastered head to toe with sweat and blood.
This dirty place is the source of Sophia's signal. Her mental imprint is fading. We have approximately 1.932 hours before it is too late.
Let me set up some drone scouts to survey the area. I'm leery of walking into a trap.
We don't have time for reconnaissance. We have to move. Saroma Altori!
The Santidus Ulturi raised Earth Splitter above his head and shattered the entry portal. But do not suppose Galdir is as reckless as he appears. One of the key Santidus dogmas is Remoro, which means many as one. He would without hesitation take any risk to save Sophia.
As I told you before. Now, let's clean up this mess.
So we now have the final battle, and if we're successful we'll get the last member of our team. Sophia, a very strong mage, and to win this we're going to have to use all of the tricks we've learned in previous fights. Now we've got some units here, the Zen Mortar, and whenever a new unit appears you do want to have a bit of a look at what their abilities are. Whenever you summon a minion, Zen Mortar will gain 1 attack and lose 1 HP. So the more units we summon, the more damage these guys will do, but the more health they will lose. So they don't do a lot of damage at the moment, so our best guess would be to try and eliminate a couple of them, but summoning many units is going to be our best bet because it's going to drop their health, and it also means we're going to take a bit of damage as well. So these guys don't do a lot of damage either. 3 attack until the end of the turn. I think if we summon one of these, that will kill one, and one of these will, because these guys gain 4 attack. So I put one here. Yeah, there we go. So these two are going to do a large amount of damage, and they're actually going to kill each other, but it will kill both of these, and will do some additional damage from Goldia and from Amara as well. So it's a bit of a numbers game. I deliberately summoned more creatures onto the field because I knew that the more creatures I summon, the more of their HP I lower. These creatures are vulnerable to physical attacks, but magic attacks don't do anything. Amara's in some trouble, so we're going to use a special ability to raise her protection at the cost of some of her health. Now the top lane is pretty nasty. There's a lot of enemies there. These guys have a lot of attack power. Dropping a shield unit will probably just result in his death. And I don't know if I'll get the tactical drone back, so I think in this case it might be worth sacrificing our weaker defense unit. And that also has killed one of theirs as well. We can follow that up with another attack with an echo. Nice. So we're going to lose some guys here. There's not a lot we can do. We're just going to have to wear the pain. So they've only got one more on their side, and unfortunately we've got more of these damn... We're outnumbered, we have to retreat. Overload the sarcophagus. So now we need to swap to a even more defensive stance, because we need to accumulate enough energy to unleash the special attack of the sarcophagus. We're going to drop a rune. These runes will give us additional energy. We've got 5 already. We just have the last 3 turns. So in our case, dropping a shield for Amara, because she's very low health. We're going to have to sacrifice our special shield unit. But it is what it is. He only does 2 damage, so the shield will soak that up. Center lane is in... I think that Goldia might be in some trouble here. We just don't have anything else that's going to help. We've only got a magical attack. 1 attack protection, and I think our best bet is just a direct attack on this. Nice. Let's see how we go. We're not going to do a lot of damage here. In fact, we're actually going to take damage. We just have to survive a couple more turns, though. Goldia's down. But our shield protected our other Altori. We need more energy. Draw more powers. So this ability lets us draw some additional abilities. There's another energy. And we just need to last 2 more turns. Again, I'm going to use the kinetic shell on Amara. And we're going to try and hopefully... There we go. This will mitigate the damage on the bottom lane. I mean, there's just not much we can do. We just got to take the pain. 2 more turns and we've got this. Oh, not good. 1 more turn. So we generate 1 more energy. We need 1 more. So if we can last this turn, we'll be okay. Oh, there we go. Never mind. So we now have 8 energy. We can overload the sarcophagus and use our own special attack and turn the tables on them. Boomski. Now, our goal is to attack and do as much damage as we can. I don't have a lot of choices here. I can upgrade Amara's abilities. Now, the top lane is occupied, but the 2 bottom lanes aren't. We want to do 6 damage, so we do 4 damage, or 3. So if we put 1 in the center lane and 1 on the bottom lane, and we then supercharge Amara's attack, we'll do enough damage to take them out. So we supercharged Amara, and we've got attack on the middle and bottom lane. Boom. And with that, we've beaten the last boss of the prologue of the game. Let's see what we can get in way of a reward.
Attempted to directly influence the battle. This is rare.
Yes, because she needs Sophia. Let's put paid to her wicked plans.
Sophia was found, pale and exhausted, in a Furos prison. Clearly, she had been psychically tortured by her captors.
We found her, but I've never seen a prison cell like this. The bars are made from pure Luma streams. How is that possible?
Stop! Not 1 more step. If you had lived as long as I, you would recognize these beams as sustainable Z-inverse rays. If you act the typical Sanctitas and charge it with your weapon, the wave desynchronization would kill us all in the next instant. Let the Architectus handle this.
After some quick calculations, Amara launched a few drones in the air. Using Luma from the Ark sarcophagus, she discharged a massive energy surge into the Z-inversed rays, which slowly degraded until the cell was no more. As always, Galdir was glad to have Amara on the team, even though terms such as dogma and discipline meant nothing to her. Sophia had been weakened by her ordeal and clung shaking to Galdir for support, but at least she was alive. For several minutes, she tearfully repeated, "I will not," before coming fully to her senses. No one would ever know the scars this episode had left upon her. For 62 hours, a battle raged within the mind of the greatest Theurgo Ultori.
The celestial tyrant lacks even the smallest shred of mercy. I was strong at first, strong enough to withstand every assault, to see through every feint. But the moon's patience and cunning are endless. My resources are not. Worse, there is no time here where I am tortured. Only the slowly encroaching wave of blackness. It is warm and full of familiar voices, promising sleep, release, death. Were it only so easy, I would readily succumb. But the darkness is the moon's final ruse. To sink into its bottomless embrace is to surrender my greatest secret. Knowledge shared with no living being. Not even Arx. Something which could very well decide the fate of humanity. This must not come to pass.
And that is the end of the opening part of the campaign. We now have access to the entire team of Volturi. The game gets a lot harder from here. I haven't finished it yet, but I'm a fair bit further into the campaign, and I've really been enjoying the mix of strategy and cards which this game has. It's a genre that I would like to try again, so I am going to have a look for other games similar to this. Now, the only criticism I've got with the game is that the story is overly complex. It's very, very confusing, and I do recommend if you are going to play this game, go and have a look at the wiki, because the story does a massive exposition dump on you, and I think it could have been simplified by a great deal. But apart from that, the game's actually very good. There's a really detailed upgrade tree. The artwork is fantastic. The units are all very interesting. The Lovecraftian horror is really well implemented, and overall I just really like the game, but I understand it's an acquired taste. So you know what you're getting into. If you're not a fan of turn-based games, then this one you may want to give a miss, because it does assume that you are fairly competent at turn-based strategy before you start the game. I really enjoyed this, and hopefully if you do pick it up, you will as well. Let me know if you played the game and if you finished it, and hopefully you'll join me next time when we look at another indie game. Until then, Skill Incarnate, out.